Warhammer Total War is a game where you build cities, create a prosperous economy, and use these funds to create giant armies that set out to conquer new territories. Well, what if we didn't do any of that? That's right, today we'll be trying to win the campaign using only our starting lord. That means no using or recruiting units, no heroes, and no more lords beyond the legendary one. And accompanying us on this adventure will be the stinkiest boy alive.
Hell no, man.
Morgur the Shadow Gave, who did not shower for so long that anyone approaching him closer than the distance of restraining order just fucking dies. And of course, to keep this challenge challenging, we'll be doing it on the maximum difficulty.
Okay, let's go.
Welcome to Estalia, gentlemen. What's this smell? Well, don't worry about it for now, as the first thing to do is disband our entire army and fire the hero. Now that we have Morgur alone, we strike at Magritta. Yes, the mission tells us to attack Montenas, but that would be bait, because until we get powerful enough, it's much better to fight enemies in walled settlements. That's because this way we can utilize the amazing sit at the gate and produce odor strategy, and the idiotic AI will just stand there and take it. Captain, what is this smell?
Don't mind it. Hold the gate, soldier.
And so the brave soldiers of the border princes one by one fall to our biological weapon. And despite seeing a gigantic pile of corpses, they keep arriving at the exact same spot. I'm not so sure I would classify this as a heroic victory, unless you think breaking every article of Geneva Convention falls into that category. Oh well. Anyway, we raise our hearthstone and start the great journey of leveling up Morgur, starting with the yellow line and grabbing some melee defense. Soon, we strike Montenas, and paradoxically, this battle will be much more difficult, as we cannot just camp at the gate. It is not too difficult, however, as the enemy does not have any fast units that could catch up with us, so we can keep running circles around them. Bear in mind, this is what I hear all the time when kiting the enemies.
Whip shot, whip shot, whip shot, whip shot, whip shot, whip shot.
And when they cannot take the foul smell anymore, they rout. Once again, the game rewards us for breaking the Geneva Convention with a heroic victory and a full level of XP that we put into more melee defense. On the following turn, we can continue our farming strategy by pulling off a very similar battle, running circles around helpless border princes soldiers.
You will never get this, you will never get this, la 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 la.
Obviously, we raise the settlement and grab some extra armor from the skill tree. Now we also have enough money to purchase something from the beautiful Beastman shop. More precisely, Banner of Madness. We can assign it to Morgur for 10% physical resistance and ability to cause fear and terror, but more importantly, Aura of Madness ability that has a very similar AoE effect to our innate aura. Admittedly worse because it requires us to be in melee and for the enemy to have low leadership, but nevertheless it will come very handy. Over the end turn, Ikit Claw shows up, and as this is a battle we are surely not ready for, we assume the invisible camp stance and run north. Fortunately, the rat does not seem to have bad intentions and came here to colonize some ruins. Nevertheless, we don't want to be anywhere close to him, so we strike at Bilbo. Of course, all we have to do is stand patiently at the gate, while the enemies spontaneously disintegrate. We raise the settlement, grab some more armor, and perform the Ritual of Ruin to gain some of that Marks of Ruination. Soon enough, we ambush the remaining forces of Estalia, and without any problem dispose of their last hope for the existence of their faction. Now the easy part is over, as we venture into French territory. See, the French are our most dangerous enemies, as evolutionary speaking, they are way more resistant to mind-twisting odors, and they also have a lot of cavalry, which we cannot outrun in open fields battles. Meaning, if we get caught here out in the open, we die.
I'm dying. Help me.
That's why our first target is Castle Carcassonne, a walled settlement, or rather a barn judging by the amount of horses inside. The battle starts well, with their infantry running to the gate one unit at a time. However, it all gets a bit scary when it turns out that cavalry doesn't come to guard the gates. And we have to enter the castle and try to bait them into fighting Morgur one by one. We lose a lot of life and even reach the region cap, but finally the army losses kick in. And with yet another heroic victory, we raise our first French hearthstone. When it comes to strengthening Morgur, we grab the Rune of the True Beast, giving us melee defense and bringing our missile resistance to 85% because of our insane base missile resistance. And we also grab a hefty 15% bonus speed and some charge bonus. And then one of the best items in the Beastman shop, Champion's Essence, which gives us some melee attack and ward save, but most importantly perfect vigor, which means we can run circles around the enemies without getting tired. Over the end turn the Fae shows up, and that's our cue to leave, because at this moment we would get absolutely steamrolled by her starting Grail Guardians. So we quickly pop into an invisible camp in a nearby forest. An orc army with a Wa wanders by, but we are not interested, as we have a much easier target in the area. No fast units, no cavalry, no problem. So we raise the settlement, grab even more melee defense, and perform another ritual, as chances of losing this hearthstone are very high right now. Soon we arrive at Paravon, which looks to be a much easier siege than the last one. Oh mon dieu, last time I felt such foul smell was when we discovered that Sergeant Arnaud was keeping expired camembert under his bed. I cannot take it anymore. So we raised this settlement as well and grab some armor from the Beastman shop, which gives us a lot of speed as well as slows down the enemies around us to make kiting even easier. Not to mention that it caps out our missile resist and provides some more resistance to magical attacks. We also get the Angor follower for some campaign movement range. Over the end turn, dwarves declare war on us, but that doesn't really worry me, as dwarves are perfect enemies for us. That's because they're really slow and short. And will never be able to catch up to us, which we promptly have an opportunity to prove by running circles around them and ending up in the Great Book of Grudges. We did not get a level, but we did get some money, which we promptly spent in the Beastman shop to get ourselves a nice axe, which we test out on a slightly bigger dwarf army. As I always like to say, size doesn't matter, because the large dwarven army falls just as easily as the previous one. This gives us 2 levels and we finally can spend points in the unique skill line. So we grab Primal Fury for some extra stats and the campaign movement range. The unique skill line is not super useful for a solo campaign, but the last trait is pretty nice, giving us corrupting attacks.
Corruption is not bad. Corruption is only bad if I'm not involved.
We also buy another axe and combine it with the axe we already have to get an even better axe. Makes perfect sense to me. We were planning to keep beating on dwarves, but over the end turn, Karl Franz himself shows up in Helmgard. Now, a big juicy army trapped in a walled settlement? Who are we to not accept such a gracious gift? Please, just don't mind the timer, because you might start worrying about my mental health and disk space. But
one eternity later,
we win the battle and raise the fort, gaining 2 levels. One that we spend on a fairly useless ability, but it allows us to unlock corrupted attacks. This will be especially useful when fighting against single entities. On the following turn, we raise the dwarven settlement we had our sights set on before, grab some more HP from the skill tree, and perform the ritual in case we lose our hearthstone. Later, some tree hugger declares war on us, but we don't want to fight him yet. First, we want to check if the undead can die from bad smell. A very small step for Morgur, but a giant leap for beastmanity. And indeed, even the ghosts can't handle our odor, as they proceed to act like they're on some kind of rave, and promptly fuck off to another dimension. The battle takes measly 36 minutes, after which the remaining undead decide that maybe it's better to stay dead instead, and we raise the settlement. As a reward, grabbing even more HP and some items from the shop, to gamble with by fusing them and hoping for a purple item. Next turn we use the beast buffs to jump into the Empire. We're here because in a couple of turns, the Nemesis crown is about to spawn, and it's a key step to winning this campaign and becoming the stinkiest beast in the old world. Now all we have to do is level up a bit, so we are ready when the crown appears. We get Deathsinger from a battle, which is a cool weapon, but considering we already have innate regeneration, it really doesn't do much for us. We dispose of Katai Caravan that happened to wander too close to our hearthstone, and grab Deadly Onslaught, which should help us when fighting tougher targets in melee. We also buy some more axes from the shop, and gamble a bit fusing them. And we get a cursed armor. This is extremely lucky and one of the best items we could have gotten. It makes us incredibly tanky at the expense of melee attack, which we don't really need as we kill enemies with our odor alone, and speed, which we won't need if we are unkillable. We got the item just in time, because Karl Franz came back for round 2. We stand next to a wall to minimize the number of units that can hit us at the same time, and watch in awe as Accursed Armor tanks abso-fucking-lutely everything. while Morgur takes out the Emperor of Mankind himself. God, imagine if I had some vortex spells right now. What the hell is AI even doing?
What are you doing, step bro?
And not many stinky minutes later, Empire calls quits and the battle is won. So we level up Shadowhide to get missile resistance back to max value after swapping the armor and keep waiting patiently for Nemesis crown to spawn. In the meantime, we relax by stinking at the gates of some Imperial settlements, leveling up Morgur, gambling in the Beastman Casino, stinking at some more settlements, leveling up Morgur some more. What a lovely chill time. Let's see what Mr. Morgur has to say about this.
Quick shot. Bomb.
Right, with his wise words in mind, we go say hi to a large Empire army gathering in the north. Let's hope we don't slaughter them on accident. Ooh, and what do we have here?
Ogres, my lord.
We might as well. We really don't have anything better to do. Fortunately, not long after, the Nemesis crown spawns. Let me just read where it is. It's in the large forest in the Empire. Well, that fucking narrows it down. It's not like Empire is a fantasy equivalent of Germany, with half of the fucking country being a forest. Well, we have to assume that they mean the big tree where that birch Drycha resides, and make our way there. Of course, on our way, we're gonna raise hearthstones, plunder towns, and get into what looks like an average German sauna on a random Tuesday. Although this one was surely easier to survive than a German sauna. Since we're already here, we might as well burn the big tree and pray that we are in the correct province. And indeed, our dreams come true as the ground lights up green and only one battle stands between Morgur and the absurdly broken crown. This is the fight we trained for, the moment we prepared for our entire stinky life, the turning point of... Oh, it's already over? Alright. Obviously we take the crown and start fighting the most random battles in the area to upgrade it as soon as possible. Like this battle against a bunch of Russians that wandered too far from their motherland. Or this one, against Mr. Chungus Fingertaker. Very intense guy. So, with the Nemesis crown, we no longer are a simple stinky boy. We became an equivalent of an exposed Chernobyl reactor that turns enemy units into an unholy meat pizza. Morgur seems to be very happy about that though.
Quick shot. Bomb.
So we keep fighting and keep moving south, as to actually win the campaign, we have to dispose of a certain deer that's cosplaying as a wood elf. And after exposing one more army to unhealthy amounts of radiation, we get to upgrade the crown, getting even more AoE damage and HP. Even the undead are not safe when faced with our beta particles. No, wait, that sounds so wrong. I'm sure Morgur emits sigma particles. Right, Morgur?
Bomb.
Right. At this point, I'm not sure anything can stop us, but this is put to a test when Vlad von Karstein decides to try us in battle. Look, on the topic of broken things, this noseless vampire boy is definitely up there in power level. And while we have absolutely zero problem disposing of his army, we aren't really well suited to face a lord as strong as him in a duel. That being said, between crumbling from army losses, corruption from our ability, and our free damaging auras, we get just enough damage over time to put Vlad back in his coffin for a nice nap.
I got you, homie!
And right after we fight another legendary lord, who could have become our goth girlfriend, but instead she decided to expose herself to significant amounts of radiation. Morgur regrets the loss of such beautiful life,
Bomb.
but all is fair in love and war, therefore we move on. Fight some more men that prove to be highly susceptible to sigma particles, and yet again get our Nemesis crown upgraded. One of the best things about this whole ordeal is that we no longer have to stink at the gates of settlements. We can simply enter and cause a quick nuclear incident, instead of wasting 2 hours scrolling TikTok while enemies die a slow and horrible death. Now the death is even more horrible, but at least fast. And with that positive thought in mind, we keep making our way south, to finally run into the Wood Elf faction that we need to murder to finish the campaign. You know that feeling when you play an RPG game and spend an ungodly amount of time on random side quests? So much that you end up one-shotting the final boss? Well, this kinda feels like that as we beat the living shit out of Wood Elves, take a quick intermezzo consisting of savage orcs, and then beat the rest of the living shit out of Wood Elves, upgrading the crown yet again to its very final form. All that's left is a crazy jump right in the middle of the Wood Elves territory, just to get intercepted by a guy who clearly cannot see shit through his helmet. Like, where did you get that shit, bro? Is it your older brothers? Anyway, he dies an excruciating death. So we pass the turn and laugh as Wood Elves, stack after stack, try to defend their sacred forest, and fail horribly. It's only fair that they learn who's the real unwashed hippie in these parts. Even Orion himself gives a shot at defeating us and... Bro is level 9? God damn it, I really over-prepared for this, didn't I? Well, it's fine, because after just one more stack of angry tree huggers, we get to attack the big tree and engage in everyone's favorite activity, deforestation. Now, only a quick march south with some more easy battles on the way, and we arrive right where we started the campaign. Now that's what I call a framing device. It's the year 44 AD, and the entirety of Talson's faction lies in ruin. Entirety? No! One last brave settlement still resists the invader. Uh-oh, and they're gone. Never mind. And there you have it. We managed to win the campaign using only our legendary lord. Fully upgraded Nemesis crown, fully leveled Stinky Boy, and Oak of Ages on fire. What a beautiful sight. Now if you reach this point, it means that you enjoyed the video, so please leave a like, subscribe, and all the standard YouTube bullshit, and see you in the next one.
Quick shot.